I want to introduce you guys to a great friend of mine, Kozhi Makai. I met Kozhi on a basketball court as competitors more than 10 years ago. And from that spawned a relationship and a friendship that has been such a blessing to me. Kozhi, his story, his testimony, and some of the insights he has to offer are really, really wonderful. I'm so glad that Kozhi has taken the time to share his story and some insights with you over the next coming weeks.
I am the last of 9 kids. I have 2 amazing sisters, Barbara and Carol. They live in Belgium and England, and I have 6 brothers. So as a family, we're like a dandelion. My parents basically just blew on this dry dandelion and we ended up all over the world. So I cover the Americas, Brian covers Southeast Asia, Eugene used to cover India, and we've got enough of Europe covered and Africa as well. My family is amazing. I think they're amazing. I give them a lot of grief, but I think they're amazing individuals. And my parents, they really gave me a head start. And I think that's what everyone should have. They should have some version of a head start. And I know that we're not all fortunate to have a head start. But if there's a head start that my parents gave me, it's a relationship with Christ. That was the biggest gift that they gave me. And there are others that I'll share. But that's probably the one that made all the difference. You know, if my life is a thread and there are multiple beads on it, the thread is really Christ in my life, and all these different beads are all my experiences over time. And my best experiences with my parents were having conversations around who God is and his value in my life and why I needed to pursue a relationship with him, much like I pursued a relationship with my best friend and my friends and so on. So for me, that was important. And my parents gave me that amazing gift. And if you were to ask any of my siblings, that's exactly the same gift that they gave to them as well. We had great advantages growing up in Zambia. You know, there were a lot of people in Zambia who didn't have what we had. But my parents were very particular on being very appreciative of the things that you have. And so even as I think about it today, I am extremely grateful for what my parents have given me. The love, the compassion, the strength, the courage, being able to be an honorable person. That was something that they gave me, and it was straight out of the Bible. There's no other way to say it. This should never be mistaken with perfection, because my parents aren't perfect, because humans aren't perfect. But I'm fortunate to have a perfect God who absolutely believes in me. And that was the message that my parents sent to me throughout my career as a basketball player. And this is probably where I should tell you about my basketball career. I started at 14 years old, started playing professional basketball in the Zambia Basketball Association, ended up playing for the national team, the under 18, as well as the under 23 and the senior national team. And it was a blast. 5 years of just basketball. Who doesn't want to live that life? But I can tell you this, the one thing that was central to who I was as an athlete was, again, my relationship with Christ. That was an important part because we were underdogs, both as a national team, but also as a club. I played on one of the worst teams when I first started. We lost a lot of games. But by the time I got to retire from basketball, we were 23-0, and that was an amazing feat. All those things I attribute to a closeness and a tightness with Christ, because my parents taught me how to pray. They taught me how without Christ, you can do nothing. And it actually makes sense. We were a talented bunch, and that's wonderful. But my parents were very particular on that. And so when I think about my journey moving from Zambia to the US, it's nothing short of miraculous from this perspective. My parents gave me $2,000 and a return ticket. And they said, go do what you can with this. And that's something that I've been able to spin into the life that I have today as a consultant, working with global brands. But all of that generally means nothing until you consider the fact that along the way, I've had amazing help. And it's as if God was putting all these different pieces in front of me to guide me and to lead me. So when I moved here, I had a best friend that I knew from Zambia, and he and I had a falling out within about a year of me moving. And so there I was, homeless, living in a truck. until the youth pastor at my church found out about that. And he said, you can't live in your truck anymore. You're going to come live with us. And you have to look at that perspective and think, here's a man with a wife, and he had 3 kids at the time, and his brother was living with him as well. And he said, no, you're going to come stay with us. And so that was definitely a God thing. And so Dale and I were sharing a room, and Steve was supporting us and taking care of us while I was going to college. And here's an interesting thing that Steve did. He had a conversation with a family in our church and told them my story. And this family decided they needed to take care of things for me. And so one day I show up at church and there's a car full of clothes. And when I say full of clothes, I mean full of clothes. So a car full of clothes, and my parents said, look, we're going to send you to college for 1 semester. If you do great in this 1 semester, we'll continue paying for you to go to school. Obviously, I didn't know what to say with that, except thank God, because that was huge for me. Here's a kid from Zambia with $2,000 who was just about to run out of his $2,000, living in a truck, now living with a family and being supported. And so the Everleys ended up doing more than just supporting me financially and allowing me to go to school, because when Steve left the church and moved on to something else, my parents decided that I needed to move in with them because they were empty nesters. And my parents, George and Renee, continue to be amazing human beings and people who love God and people who live their relationship with God in community, and I'm part of that community. They're an amazing support system. They believe in me, they support me. And when I look back at my journey, right, from Zambia to here, it's riddled, right? It's filled with multiple opportunities for God to show just how strong and amazing He is. And it's an honor for me to be able to have that kind of a story where God is a part of your story, where He is ordering every single one of your steps. I love the fact that there's work for me to do, but this is not a story that I get to write on my own. And so when I think about my journey and my story, I realize that the best way to think of my story is that I am a co-author with Christ. And that's an amazing thing, that He and I are co-authors of my life and my journey. And I wish all of us could have that type of experience where we co-author with God. And if we can co-author with God, then there are amazing things that can happen with our story. And that's something all of us should aspire to. And I hope it's something that you can aspire to as well.